have the Ayatollah of Fantasy Rock and Roller with us today, Adam Rank. How you doing, Rank?
They look great in person, and I just can't wait to next year where we can pack it full of 25,000.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I didn't know it was Ball Guys Day. It was being ranked. I mean, how do you lose?
This is the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Vipercast here on the Vipers Network, presented by the Fantasy Points Media Group. And today we are talking about our must-draft running backs for fantasy football here in 2022. The preseason is done. The regular season, you are now officially on the clock, and with me on the clock today, as always, joining me all the way from Cali, Major Caldwell the fourth. How you doing, Major?
I am good. Let's get it.
And also joining me from Texas, we have Tera Roberts the first. How you doing, Tera?
The first of her name. I'm doing fantastic.
I absolutely love that Major's kind of add the fourth into his Twitter thing there. The way too major media, major upgrade there on the Twitter handle. Major, I salute you. I also salute some of these roster cuts that we have been seeing here so far in Black Monday, Black Tuesday. These NFL teams right now have to get these rosters down from 80 to 53 by 2 p.m. tomorrow. I mean, I think that's 2 p.m. my time. I didn't quite do the math. Maybe it's noon my time. Either way, tomorrow, midday, sometime, all these players are going to be looking for new homes. So this is not something that we take lightly here on the show. These are real human beings looking to provide for their families, their friends, and all whatnot here. But hey, just because you're cut does not mean you can't latch on somewhere else. So as we look through this here, we've seen some carnage. You got teams like Atlanta. They've already cut Auden Tate. They cut Geronimo Ellison. This is a team that shouldn't be cutting any wide receivers right now. What is going on in Atlanta, Major?
One of these emojis, like, I have no idea, man. These Chicago's the same. Like, they're cutting receivers, and I don't know why you would cut anyone on those teams because they're so horrible. But I think this is just a race to number one draft pick. So I think they're trying to get as bad as they can so they can get one of these young quarterbacks coming out next year.
So, Tera, before we get into our news and notes, we've got a few little items we want to talk about there. When you go through these cuts already, I don't know if you've looked at this list. Is there anything right now that just kind of pops at you that kind of stands out like, he got cut? I mean, someone you didn't expect that maybe is no longer with that team that they started this week off with?
Yeah, I'll say Laviska Shenault. That one was a little surprising that he got cut because I think there's still value there with him being, rather young. I mean, he's only in his third year. I know we haven't seen a lot. He's been stuck in Jacksonville, and that kind of brings down the quality of very many receivers there. But I don't know. I'm hoping that maybe it was just a utilization problem with him there in Jacksonville, and maybe a fresh perspective, a fresh new team in Carolina will kind of change things for him and give him a little bit more opportunity.
Well, let's talk about that trade between the Carolina Panthers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Do we think that this is going to be a big deal or no deal for Laviska Shenault for fantasy right now, Tera?
I don't think it's going to be a big deal because from a receiver perspective, we weren't really targeting anyone outside of DJ Moore with Carolina. But yeah, it's something to note in deeper leagues. But from a standard perspective, a 12-man or a 12-team league standard roster, I would say it's not something major that we need to be concerned with.
So let's take this a little bit further here. We know that Terrace Marshall was a guy who was kind of on that radar as a sleeper type pick for a lot of managers out there. But we also know that Baker Mayfield has won that starting job, maybe perhaps because he is the lesser of two evils when it comes to Sam Darnold. But we know DJ Moore is going to have a role. We know Robbie Anderson's going to have a role. Both these guys seen over 100 targets last year. Yes, Robbie Anderson, he saw over 100 targets last season. Now, Hollywood Higgins, he's already there. He's got that chemistry with Baker Mayfield. Remember, Higgins was brought in prior to Mayfield, so it's not really a one-for-one type situation. Does Terrace Marshall still have a role on this team?
I think he does. I mean, we've heard at least we've heard positive news out of him. We haven't heard that he's been looking bad in training camp and preseason. We've heard that things are getting a little bit better for him. Last year was just a strange year, and he wasn't able to provide or wasn't able to really get any footing. So I think he's still kind of in the same spot to where he's a fringe player that you're holding on to. He's young, he's talented. You're hoping that there can be something there at some point. There is a quarterback upgrade, so I will give them that Baker is an upgrade from anything that they worked with last season. So from that perspective, I think he kind of stands pat at where he is. I don't think anything has made a major change to his situation.
Well, the one thing that does concern me, Major, I'm going to pass it to you. Could Marshall actually find himself being cut? Carolina hasn't done very many cuts right now. They cut offensive tackle Austin Pleasance. They cut linebacker Kellen Tolson and tight end Jared Scott. So it looks like Tommy Tremble, he's going to be okay there in Carolina. But can we say the same about Terrace Marshall?
I think so. I mean, he's on the borderline though. I think he's slotted in maybe at wide receiver 4, maybe 3-4. He has shown some promise, but I think Carolina's kind of they're starting to ramp up into like the win now type of mode. I don't think they're tanking anymore or doing any of that good stuff. But yeah, with Baker there, I think that took the team to that next level. If it's not a big jump, but it's just enough to get the the fans excited and everyone excited out there. So I don't know. For him, is really tough. But I think he could slot in at the 3 or 4 receiver slot.
I mean, it just seems like they've got a lot of wide receiver 3s, wide receiver 4s on this team.
True.
Like we said, Hollywood Higgins is there, Terrace Marshall, Laviska Shenault. I mean, you're looking at 5th, 6th, 7th type of options here. Christian McCaffrey is going to be 1A in this passing game with DJ Moore's being 1B. We know that Christian McCaffrey, when he's healthy, hey, this is a running back show. We know that Christian McCaffrey is the 101 in fantasy if he can stay healthy and on the field.
Like
and that is a big if. That's why there is a debate about who should go 101. But when he's healthy, he literally outperforms Jonathan Taylor on every single fantasy metric, except being on the field, which is kind of the biggest part about it all.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of these running backs who have found themselves cut recently, and this one hurt me. So at this moment, I ask anyone watching the show, please respect my privacy during this moment of pain and sorrow right now, as Sony Michel has been cut from the Miami Dolphins. That means somehow, some way, Raheem Mostert and even Myles Gaskin have turned out to be better options. Our guy there, they cut Jared Dokes. They also cut our other guy there, Rhamondre White. I mean, this has been, they cut everything. This was a crowded backfield to begin with. So Major, as our running back guru, our running back expert, our former running back from the College of the Canyons, community college there, can we please break down what this Sony Michel cut means and what this means for the Dolphins backfield right now? And hey, like Kenny and Drake a week before, where do we see Michel possibly fitting in?
Where is Sony going to me is a hard question. There's a lot of good running backs out in the market right now. So it's going to be, but I think Sony may be the top one. So I think he's going to be the first one to fall, and then you'll see all the rest of them. But I have no idea where any of these running backs are going. It looks like every team has their roster, the running back rooms in pretty much each team are kind of set, like, again, except for like maybe Atlanta. But I feel like they want to go young, and they're trying to get to that first round pick as well. But for if you are owner of Chase, you are a winner. Like Chase Edmonds, I think is going to be his offense in that zone stretch read running game that they have that they're taking from the 49ers. I think that fits him perfectly. He looked pretty good in preseason. Raheem Mostert is going to I think him and Myles Gaskin are going to kind of battle out for that running back 2 spot. But I think Raheem got that kind of sewn up a little bit. But I kind of like it for Tua more than anyone else, because to me, it seems like they're going to throw the ball. If you have Chase out there, you're going to throw the ball to him. You're going to throw the ball to all those receivers. So I think they're going to use the short passing game as a running game as well. So don't expect like huge numbers from the running backs in Miami, but you're going to get some receptions out of that backfield. So I think Tua's going to have a great year.
We talked about this on the show a few different times with Chase Edmonds. He's a guy who's going to see 60 receptions this season out of the backfield there in Miami. Now, Tera, I want to play a little devil's advocate here because we know what we're going to talk about a little bit later. Is there a way that Sony Michel finds himself back in Los Angeles and becomes the number one running back for the Rams?
Not the number one. It would be kind of cute if he would have found his way back to Los Angeles. But no, I actually think, and obviously a very sad situation, but I actually think maybe he finds his way to Washington. Obviously, they probably need a back to, kind of tide them over right now, since we don't know exactly, how long or, what the recovery process is, sadly, for Brian Robinson. But I think that would make sense. I mean, Sony Michel, he's talented. He's older, but I don't think he's lost an extreme step that he can't find a home. I think kind of what happened there in Miami is that I think Raheem Mostert was just Mike McDaniel's guy. I mean, when you kind of make that connection, and they were a little bit, probably a little bit worried about the recovery there for Mostert. And once obviously Mostert was fine and ready to go, there was really no purpose for Sony Michel. So I think from that perspective, it made sense. Not a knock on Sony as much as it was like, hey, we're good. We don't really need you right now.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Brian Robinson's name here in the Washington Commanders a little bit. We're wishing him a speedy recovery right now. If you live under a rock or you're just tuning in for the first time or you don't know what's going on, he was in part of a carjacking situation there. We got shot in the leg and in the glute. So we don't know. I've never been shot in the butt before, so I don't know what the recovery time is for something like that. He had a successful surgery. Things are looking good. There's just no timetable right now for his return, and that's why we could possibly see players like Sony Michel, Kenyon Drake, maybe a veteran presence who's already been there, done that, find themselves into Washington. And it's not just Sony Michel and Kenyon Drake out there. Major. Today we also heard that the Minnesota Vikings are taking offers, listed offers on Alexander Mattison. Now, if you are the Atlanta Falcons right now, and you're sitting back, you've got Damian Williams, you've got yourself Cordero Patterson, you've got yourself Tyler Algier, you got someone else there who I don't even know who's there, Quadre Olison.
Right.
You're looking at Sony Michel, you're looking at Kenyon Drake, and you're looking at possibly Alexander Mattison being available. Do you make a move for any of these guys? And then Tera, after Major's done that, what are your thoughts on Alexander Mattison being on that trade block?
If I'm getting all three of the guys you just mentioned and making a whole new running back room, and probably keep my what's the young guy, the rookie. I'll keep him and add those three, and now you have four solid running backs. Because what they have right now, like Cordero Patterson, yeah, he had a moment, but he's a little bit older. He's still a receiver. He's like, come on, guys, let's stop that. But again, I don't think they're really trying to win. And again, like she was talking about Washington, I don't think they're really trying to win. So I don't know if those teams are going to go out and grab those big names at running back.
Tera, just kind of touch back on Alexander Mattison and what this means for him, for his fantasy, if he does move on to somewhere else.
Obviously with Alexander Mattison, we've seen anytime he stepped into that role when Dalvin Cook was down, he was an absolute monster on the field. So I can see why teams are just kind of clawing at him. And it makes sense because in preseason, we've seen that the other guys, Ty Chandler and Kine, I'm not going to say your last name.
Nwangwu. I'm just making things up too.
Sorry, buddy. And Kine, my dude. They all look very good. And it's possible that they're just, super comfortable with rolling with those two guys and going ahead and getting value out of Mattison because they obviously can. If he is available for trade, I'm sure that there are people that are willing to pay a very fair value for him.
Wait, did they say why he's on the market? Is it like, is he in a doghouse at all, or just like they see some value, like recoup some value?
I think the key here comes down to Dalvin Cook. They could, if they wanted to, get out Dalvin Cook's contract and at the end of this season with about a $2 million cap hit. And Alexander Mattison basically becomes a free agent here pretty soon as well. So I think that comes down to, do you want to keep Dalvin Cook? Do you want to keep Alexander Mattison? And the reality is, I think they really believe they can get some value, like Tera mentioned there, on Mattison in a trade. And Ty Chandler has essentially made Mattison expendable. not many teams are going to be able to roster 2 running backs like Nick Chubb and a Kareem Hunt and still maintain quality wide receivers, quality quarterback play, and kind of plug these other holes in the rest of the lineup. We've seen the devaluation of the running back position over the years. This is nothing new. It is basically, I hate to say it, Major, as a running back, it's basically a plug-and-play position. We've seen Mike Shanahan do this for years in Denver and have quality out of this backfield there. Orlando's Gary there. He was performing for the Denver Broncos once upon a time. So we know what that looks like. And now it's time for you and I to go one-on-one and do a little performing of our own here. Let's pull up the screen. Let's put Tera in the middle. Hey, we're going to put this out there on Twitter as well. We're going to share it with the world. Let the Twitter people decide. But hey, we've got a little extra here because every time we get a special Tera facial reaction, one way or the other, we're going to score that as a point. And if you don't know,
it's a drinking game. Every time she makes a face, you got to take a drink.
Major has this uncanny ability to either get the old eyebrow raise or the head shake from Tera more often than not. So I'm feeling pretty confident that I'm going to do my best She-Hulk impression here and absolutely destroy you in the court of Tera here when it comes to Cam Akers being a top 15 running back for 2022. Now, Major, I am going to be the kinder individual here and give you first crack at trying to explain how on earth you could possibly believe that Cam Akers is a top 15 running back here in 2022. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for the floor. And I just have to say, I beat Tera down last week, so I guess I'm the champion. And now, Matt, it's your turn to get smacked around a little bit. I hate to do it. I like you guys. Don't make me out to be the bad guy. But let's talk about Cam. This is my guy. I've been hoping and praying for him to play like he did at the end of 2020. It's all coming down to attempts for me. He's going to have an opportunity to ball out. It seems like when he's in the game and he's healthy, they give him the ball. So the last 4 games of 2020, he averaged 22 attempts per game versus Hendo's 5 attempts per game. Like, to me, that's a huge plus for my guy Cam Akers. And then in the playoffs, he followed up with 23 attempts per game. Like, these are huge numbers for a running back. Most teams, you see about 15, 16 touches. He's getting 20. He got hurt. He came back. So it shows that he's serious about this, that he has a great work ethic, and he worked his way back to come back from an Achilles. That's like the kiss of death. And he came back in 1 season. And then when he came back, he averaged 17 rush attempts per game versus Hendo's 1 per game. Like, that's crazy numbers to me that everyone's keep trying to put those two together. And Tera, stop with the faces.
It's because you're trying to use numbers that don't work for you. That's why you're getting the faces. You're using stats. Stats are Tera's thing.
But stats are my thing today because I am slaying everybody. All right, let's see. What else do I have here? So, so when Cam is in the game, he is his backfield. And I think he's back. He's healthy. Today, he's fully practicing again. I think the injury, quote unquote, I think that was one of those things is to keep them off the field. Like, both of the running backs had the soft tissue stuff going on. They just kind of did that to keep the guys, fresh for game 1. But yeah, to me, he has an opportunity. They're going to pass the ball, so he's not running against a huge fronts. So I like everything about what Cam Akers. If he can come back healthy, I think he's going to actually exceed expectations at the 15. He's probably going to end up in that top 5. You heard it here first.
And kids, if you're watching this for the first time, this is why you don't do drugs. I mean, it's that simple.
Drugs are good.
Now, I'm going to throw some stats out at you too, because you just mentioned that Cam Akers is getting 20 plus touches per contest. That's great if that number was factual. And maybe 20 touches is factual. But when you're averaging 3.3 yards per carry, that's only going to add up to 66 yards per game. There's no way that's not even top 20 when it comes to running backs. 66 yards per game, that ain't going to do nothing. Frank Gore can come out of retirement right now and run for 66 yards per game. Second, I got the floor right now. You can talk your little thing. Missing time with soft tissue injury in camp, this is already happening. Cam Akers isn't even all the way back. In fact, we just heard recently on the radio, on the beat writer here, that Henderson is actually closer to returning to action than Cam Akers is to returning to action. This is going to be an ugly split of the backfield. This is going to be probably closer to 50-50. You can't tell me he's going to be a top 15 running back, splitting the carries and averaging 3.3 yards per carry. For crying out loud, Marlon Mack averaged 3.3 yards per carry, and look where he is now. He's a backup to a rookie. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked right now if Sony Michel ends up leading this Rams backfield in touches in 2022. That is kind of where we're at right now. First, it's the Achilles injury. We don't know what this means. We still haven't seen Cam Akers come back from this. Yes, he came back, but he wasn't back. And that is a fact right there. 2, Henderson's role. I said this 50-50. It might even be 60-40. That is going to cap Akers' ceiling. It's going to cap it no matter how you want to look at it. Sony Michel was literally the only healthy running back that the Rams had last season. So there's no guarantee that Henderson's going to be the guy. There's no guarantee that Akers is going to be the guy. It might even be Kieran Williams. We don't know, because apparently the Rams like the rookie here as well out of Notre Dame, who absolutely crapped the bed during the draft, during the scouting combine. And that's where we're at. We're talking about a rookie who was horrible at the combine, possibly getting involved in these touches right now with your so-claimed hero. Major, we talked about this off the air. You can be some of us live long enough to be a hero, but we also die a villain eventually somewhere down the line. I mean, that's where Cam Akers is right now. Use that Batman line however you want to do it. He was a hero at one point, but he's already finding himself down that path of villainacy right now. Is villainacy a word? I don't care, because Cam Akers is 15 running backs. It doesn't matter. And then we look at this a little bit further. And health-wise, I mean, I really am concerned about this. I don't think this is going to be one of those things, one and done, he's back in the lineup. It is going to be with him all season long, whether it's a soft tissue injury, whether he's trying to get himself back into the lineup because of that Achilles injury. There's too many questions here for me to trust in Cam Akers being a top 15 running back. He sure the hell ain't going to see top 5 running back. I guarantee you that right now. And I would be shocked. I would be shocked if he even cracks the top 24. I don't even think he's an RB2 right now at this point. And judging by Tera's face, I have absolutely owned you during this 1v1. And Tera, I'm coming for you next week.
We cannot wait. Time out. You just said that.
I can't do that. Like, what am I, like, stupid? There we go. There we go.
Like dyslexic.
There's the winner.
Hey, so wait. Time out. Rebuttal.
I'll give you a counterpoint here. I'll let you kind of give me a rebuttal because it's already over.
Just
so I feel
said so the 3.3 that you pulled, that was when he was coming back off of an injury.
He's still coming back from an injury. He hasn't came back.
He's a full year removed. Go ahead.
But your attempts were from the injury time period too, so it's the same stats.
No, my attempts were from 2020.
So why would you pull?
So now you're pulling stats from when he never had an injury. You're pretending the injury never existed. All of a sudden, some stuff, a new Achilles.
23-year-olds heal like. Remember when you were 23, you would just like drink all night and then wake up and go to school. You remember that?
When Troy, hey, have you watched the movie Troy, Tera? I know you watched the movie Troy at one point. When he got shot with that arrow through the Achilles, he was like 23 years old. He was done. That was it.
I think technology has advanced a little bit since like before Christ, bro. Like, come on.
Was that comp off the cuff or was that prepared? If that was off the cuff, that was pretty impressive.
It was not impressive.
If that was prepared, it was prepared. It was a little corny.
If I can slide in a Brad Pitt reference at any point in any show, I'm going to start doing that right now. And hey, this is how it's going.
But then you just also wait. Hold on, Matt. You also said that there's no running back in LA. Like you just said that Cam is not going to play and Hendo's not going to play, and they're going to play some rookie out of Notre Dame who couldn't even like perform in the draft in his underwear. Like, come on, guys.
He was hurt.
What I'm going to say is every running back in this Rams backfield is not healthy. They're not going to be what you want them to be. And it's going to be split touches all the way through because no one's going to be able to stay healthy. No one has proven to be able to stay healthy. Every single one of these running backs outside of the Funk himself has been hurt during the offseason and in the training camp. They're not even taking real contact and they're getting hurt, Major. What's going to happen when the bullets are flying?
That is fake hurt, Matt. Like, you don't understand coach talk. you just can't pull your guys out because the NFL needs the people to play in the preseason so they can like sell tickets and all that good stuff. So what you do is you say, oh yeah, he has a hamstring or he has a quad or, you know, wink, wink. Like that's what it is. Like both running backs are at the same time and they both come back at the same time. Is it a coincidence or is it just like coach talk? Come on, guys.
And on top of that, Major, Henderson's going to be the third down back. He's going to be the passing back in an offense that likes to pass. Not Akers. Akers ain't that dude. He ain't about that life. So you got Henderson here. The ceiling for Akers is cat. I don't know how you could bring him into as a fringe RB1 here. There's no way he even comes close to that. And sadly, he is being drafted right now within the first 4 rounds, and that's about 2 rounds higher than I'm even considering him. I don't know if I'd even take him in the 6th round right now. I probably have a 7th round grade on him, and that is definitely not a top 15 running back. I'd even take your boy Rhamondre Stevenson over Cam Akers simply because I think Stevenson actually might play 17 games this season.
All you need is attempts. All you need is opportunity. And when he's playing, he's getting between 16 and 20 attempts per game. That is enough for him. And they haven't even unlocked his receiving ability. The guy is an all-around running back. Like, I don't understand. But when the Hendo start being this guy where everyone's talking him up, please help me out there. He has not. He's had 3 years of doing absolutely nothing.
One, you just mentioned that. He's not getting those reps. He's not getting that playing time. He hasn't had that opportunity there for Akers. The numbers aren't there. The carries aren't going to be there. None of that is going to be there. And if it was, he's only getting 3 yards per win of those attempts. We're using numbers. We're talking about stats here.
Stats lie. That's why I hate them.
Volume's great unless you don't do anything with it. Volume is fantastic if you don't do anything with it. Here's the thing. If he's only going to get 20 touches, he's only going to average 3 yards per carry. He better dang well score 3 times per game.
And
that ain't happening.
There's going to be a lot of red zone opportunities in that offense with no tight end. Like, Cooper Kupp can't score all the touchdowns. They're going to have to run the ball eventually.
Do they, though? Do they? Because they didn't last year.
That Higbee slander was intense.
I know. I felt that.
Don't get me started on him. I had Higbee on like 3 of my dynasty squads, and I was hoping and praying, and never ever came through. So he's out of here now.
That's probably why I wasn't bitter.
I had
time
talking about how Major's wrong. We've already talked enough about Major being wrong here. We got to get to the rest of the show. We're going to give you running backs that you need to make sure are on your roster within the first 3 rounds, between rounds 4 and 6. Which you might find Cam Akers there apparently, but I wouldn't touch him that round. Round 7 to 10, and those deep sleepers that Major absolutely loves there, rounds 10 and beyond, because that is where you are going to win your leagues. And we're going to start with the easy calls here, right? To kind of warm us up here a little bit. Not that I need to get any more warm, because hey, I just absolutely own Major in a 1 versus 1. But I'm going to turn this over to Major. I'm going to let you talk a little bit more here. Let's talk about that running back in the first 3 rounds that you need to get on your fantasy football rosters right now. Who are you drafting in the first 3 rounds? Who are you not leaving your draft without?
I'm a bandwagon guy. I've never really been that my whole life, but I've been watching the Hard Knocks, and I kind of like what Coach Deuce is doing with DeAndre Swift, man. Like, he has an opportunity to get even better, and it's just because the wide receivers are better. And like, I think they're actually going to throw the ball, so he's not going to be running against 11-man fronts like he's done his first 2 years. He hasn't cracked 1,000 yards yet rushing, but he's done it, total yards. But I think this year you're going to see him have that opportunity to have 1,000 yards rushing, plus those receiving yards, the 500, 600 that he's been doing each and every year that he's been in the league. So I'm a big DeAndre Swift bandwagon guy, and it's pretty much because I'm a big Coach Deuce fan off the Hard Knocks show.
Tera, Roger Craig, Marshall Faulk, and Christian McCaffrey. Does DeAndre Swift join that group of 3 as the only running backs to run for 1,000 and receive 1,000 yards in the same season?
Yes. This is one of the rare times that I agree with Major here. I think the upside with DeAndre Swift is incredible. I'm not bandwagon. I've been on the Swift train for a while. He's one of my guys for this season. So yes.
Sure, you could have stopped at I agree with Major. Like, why you have to do the extra stuff all the time?
It's more fun this way.
I'm going to say, Major, I'm going to say no, but it's going to be darn close. I mean, that is elite company right there. But if anyone can do it in the NFL right now, outside of Christian McCaffrey, DeAndre Swift may have the best chance to do it. I mean, Aaron Jones, he came pretty close last year himself. So there are some guys who can flirt with it, but there's very few that can actually get over that hump there. And speaking of one of those guys, Tera, who's your person that you're going to make sure you leave round 1 with? Because I mean, there's no way this guy's sliding to round number 2.
No, but when you say round 1 to 3 and you give me an opportunity to talk about this man, I'll talk about him every single time I can. My boy, Austin Ekeler. I have stood up for him 1,000 times on the show, so I won't be too long-winded, maybe. But Austin Ekeler is my overall RB2. Obviously, I differ from a lot of people who have Christian McCaffrey there, but I am super confident in Austin Ekeler being able to repeat. I want as many Chargers as humanly possible this year, and it all starts at the top with Austin Ekeler, who I'm taking right behind Jonathan Taylor. And the thing with Austin Ekeler is you have to approach it with dispelling a few myths. So that's what I'm going to do here. Age concern, 27. It's not the same 27 as other 27-year-olds. The first 3 years of his career, he actually saw less carries than Najee Harris had total last year. So when we think about workload concerns and age concerns, that just doesn't exist for Austin Ekeler. He often gets labeled as injury prone. That is not the case. He has only missed like one major chunk of time, 7 games in 2020. Outside of that, no major issues. And then myth number 3, obviously, everyone wonders if he can actually sustain this pace. And the thing that I love to point out with Austin Ekeler is that his 2021 usage was perfectly in line with his career stats and career pace stats from prior years, all outside of the rushing touchdowns, which is the big thing. But when you look at the rushing touchdowns, I really don't think those are going to go away. It wasn't an anomaly. It was literally just the result of the change in coaching staff, the change in team capabilities, the change in their philosophies as well. Ekeler had never been used as a goal line back, and he finally got that opportunity. He thrived. They're not going to change it. Do not let Major fool you later on in the show. This is not going to change, even if there's some regression, in his rushing touchdowns, he would still have the room to be able to be a top 3 back statistically. So I'm not concerned. This is my RB2. I love this guy. Walking out of him round 1 every single time.
I think if I've learned anything through this preseason right now is we've seen Joshua Kelly and Larry Roundtree as RB2, RB3 right now. Currently, that doesn't mean that's how it's going to end up at the end of the season, but they are kind of penciling themselves into those top 2 running back spots behind Austin Ekeler, which means you can expect to see plenty of Austin Ekeler, at least at the very beginning of the season, probably to the midway, and we'll see how Austin Ekeler's body can handle it from that point on. Because Austin Ekeler, he's not against giving some touches away to someone else to kind of save a few of those bumps and bruises down the stretch. Now, for me, Major, I know you're in agreement with me on this one. This is one of our guys. I want to share Joe Mixon with everyone because Joe Mixon deserves to be shared with the world. The additions of Ted Karras there, La'el Collins, and Alex Kappa not only help Joe Burrow, but they benefit Joe Mixon. And this is a really scary thought, how explosive this offense is going to be. I don't even know how this offense is going to come off the field outside of scoring touchdowns here in 2022. At just 25 years of age, Joe Mixon, he's still got himself a solid 3 to 4 seasons. And I wouldn't be surprised way this offense is going and how they're going to protect Joe Burrow. More protection means more offensive plays, more offensive plays. You know how it works down there. Less third downs. It's just going to keep steamrolling. I would not be shocked if Joe Mixon somehow, some way finds himself close to 300 carries and 50-plus targets. So I'm going to say 350 touches along the way somewhere in the season here. Not quite Najee Harris type numbers, but I just don't see this offense coming off the field without scoring. And that would be quite the accomplishment there. Now, it's important for the Bengals and for fantasy managers to know a lot of Joe Mixon's value is going to be tied into this passing game and what he's going to see in the receiving game there. And we're going to want to see him heavily involved in this passing offense, and that's where that production is really going to take off, especially at PPR because, hey, we're not dinosaurs. We like to move on. We like PPR. Now, in 2021 there, the only running backs that ran for over 1,000 yards and had 10 or more touchdowns, Jonathan Taylor, Ezekiel Elliott, and yes, Joe Mixon. So volume, hey, we talk about this. Volume is key. And the way I see it right now, there's only a handful of bell cow backs. One happens to be Derrick Henry. Saquon Barkley is another. Najee Harris, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, if he can stay healthy, and Joe Mixon rounds out that list of bell cow backs that are going to see 80% of the touches coming out of that backfield. And hey, in the fantasy streets, volume is key and staying healthy. No, I see. I threw that caveat in there, so you cannot come back at me with Cam Akers because he is not going to stay healthy. Now, that being said, I'm not even going to let Major take a rebuttal because he is still trying to find a way to claw back into that debate that he clearly lost, like no contest. Like that was a TKO in like the second round. Not only did I knock you down once, I knocked you down twice. I knocked you down a third time before we even got to the third round. It was over before it started. Now, what else is over, Major? Is my time of speaking. So I'm going to turn it over to you for rounds 4 through 6. That running back that you are about to target. Let us know who he is and see it right down here. Bring it from down low and let us know.
I'm gonna go with Breece Hall. Huge fan of him all the way through college and everything else, and he has shown in the preseason that he's the real deal. And again, Matt was just talking about volume. I think he's going to kind of slot himself into one of those bell cow running backs. Because there's pretty much no other options on that team at the moment. They do have some young talent at receivers, but I don't know if the quarterback is just ready yet or if the receiver's just ready yet, but he is. During the preseason, it looks like he's pretty much faster than everyone else on the field. You see him, hauling off long runs in practices and stuff like that. He just seems to be on a different level than everyone else at the moment. I maybe he's the rookie of the year. I see big things from him. He has the juice. I don't even know I can't give you stats and do all that fancy stuff. He is his running style fits that offense. The offensive line has been upgraded a lot. I think all those young guys are getting a little bit older now. So he's in a perfect position to, again, slot himself into those bell cow running backs because, again, there's nothing else on that team.
I feel the Michael Carter disrespect has gone on far too much here.
I like Michael Carter, though. I do like Michael Carter.
Well, in fact, Rich Community there of the New York Jets there doing the beat there has basically said right now, Michael Carter is the lead back. Now, that doesn't mean nothing. It's preseason talk, whatever you want to make out of that. But, Major, do you think that Breece Hall is very close to what Jonathan Taylor perhaps – his rookie season, where maybe he's not getting those snaps at the beginning of the year, but as the year progresses, talent will rise. The cream always rises to the top, and Breece Hall is going to take over more of a 70-30 timeshare as the season goes on, even though maybe closer to 50-50 for weeks 1, 2, and 3.
Absolutely not. I think he's going to be the man from day one. What a lot of beat writers tend to do. I know we like to follow the beat writers and all that stuff. We have a lot of people on this show. We love all you guys. But we do understand that part of your job is to have some kind of scandalous thing going at the beginning so you can get people to read your article. So people saying Michael Carter is going to be the lead back, that's just salacious headlines to get everyone to read their articles. So with that being said, Breece Hall is going to be the man off the top. Carter's going to be the third down back. Just off of size alone, if you look at the two, it works out that way. They're running that 49er style of offense, that zone read as well. And they both look good in that offense. And I'm a big Carter fan. I had him in pretty much every one of my leagues coming out the draft last year. But Breece Hall is just one of those guys. He's one of those Jonathan Taylor types. He's one of those people that is going to demand the ball. The cream does always rise.
Well, for Michael Carter managers, the good news is the Jets, they're pretty much a shoo to see third and long more often than not this season. Now, Tera,
that's true.
Bad teams, bad things happen to bad teams. It's what happens in the National Football League. Now, Tera, who's that running back between rounds 4 through 6 that you're targeting? And, hey, in your home league with the rest of your family watching all your content that you're putting out there, are you actually getting him on your rosters?
No, I am not. But that's okay. The roster was still fantastic. But the guy that I want to talk about is it's AJ Dillon. Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I can back it up. AJ Dillon, a lot of times people look at that and they think he's being a little bit overdrafted because he is definitely the second running back on that team. Then you have other people that think, that for some reason that AJ Dillon is the immediate future and that Aaron Jones has fallen off, which is not the case. These are two guys that are going to play very equal steps on the field. And we do have a small sample size that we want to look at of what it looks like from last year when AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones are on the field at the same time. Weeks 14 through 17, after Jones came back from an injury, perhaps a little bit too soon, thought he was going to sit out a little bit more. But they were both in the lineup, and Dillon averaged 12.1 fantasy points per game. That does not sound fantastic, but the reason that I want to point that out is because that is his literal floor. That is his floor in a situation in last year's offense where they have Davante Adams. That is what we can get out of him, which would make him a low-end RB2, which is exactly what you are drafting him as. So you are drafting him at his floor, and that's what we want to do. We don't want to draft guys at their ceilings in this range in particular. If you want to do that in the first round, fantastic. But in these rounds right here in 4 through 6, you don't want to draft guys at the very best that they can be. And that's not what you're doing with AJ Dillon. You are drafting him at a spot where he is literally guaranteed to get his floor. And with the exit of Davante Adams, we've got this special situation where both he and Aaron Jones are going to have significant roles in the offense. Aaron Jones is obviously going to take on a significant part of that pass game to help out the receiving core. And then AJ Dillon is going to be getting a very solid amount of work on the ground. And do not forget that he actually has very good hands and showcased that last year as well. So he'll be getting some pass work as well. Don't count him out as one of those guys who is exclusively getting work on the ground. But the big thing here is that I'm not just guessing at this. This is literally what Matt LaFleur has told us. And I trust Matt LaFleur. This is my guy. If this was Kyle Shanahan or Pete Carroll talking, I would say take that with a big old grain of salt, but it is not. This is coming directly from Matt LaFleur. I trust what he's saying. It makes 100% sense that these guys are going to be aggressively utilized in this offense because the offense needs to flow through the most talented players on the field, and that is looking like it is both Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. So when you look at this range and you're looking at a guy who is a lock for an RB2 and has legitimate top 5, not Cam Akers top 5, legitimate top 5 upside. If Aaron Jones were to go down with an injury, you are drafting him as a startable flex with a low-end RB2 or low-end RB2 floor and elite handcuff upside. This is a guy that you want to snag. He is literally a league winner. The purest definition of a league winner, it is this guy right here.
What?
Well, see, I agree with everything there that you said, except for the fact that you're going to take him over my guy here because it sounds like once you hit rounds 4 through 6, you're targeting yourself, AJ Dillon. One of these guys that I'm absolutely targeting for myself here, and I've done it in every single draft. I am practicing what I preach, and I may be essentially the last man standing on this mountain here, and that's Elijah Mitchell because there's been a lot of negativity going out about there. I mean, we've heard about the rookie coming in and taking some snaps, and now there's this kid called Jordan Mason who's supposed to factor into everything here. Trey Sermon, for crying out loud. We're talking about him. Stop it. Just stop. Elijah Mitchell is that guy that you want on this 49ers team. Now, listen, I've said it once. I'll say it again. Despite playing in just 12 games, Major, see what happens? He only played in 12 games, but he actually produced. He recorded almost 1,000 yards rushing. He was a 37 yards shy of that. If you add in what he was able to do in the passing game, he had 1,100 scrimmage yards there. Yeah, that's right. Mitchell was also a top 10 running back in both fantasy points per game and yards after contact, which is pretty good considering that he was being disrespected ahead of last season's training camp. He's being disrespected yet again this year in training camp. So you know that chip is going to be on his shoulder. Hopefully he doesn't weigh too much because he could find himself on the injured reserve here too. But hey, San Francisco, they are still going to be a run-first team. It doesn't matter if Trey Lance is under center. It doesn't matter if Jimmy Garoppolo comes in halfway through the season to try and save the 49ers season. Now, he is back. We know that San Francisco ran the ball 30-plus times last season per game, which was the 5th most in the league. The key here for Mitchell, like most backs, is staying healthy because you can't have volume if you're not on the field. Now, he had that hamstring injury. He's already back in practice right now. He's already working a lot more harder than maybe Cam Akers has been doing in practice right now. So there's a reason why his ADP has taken a dip, especially in those high stakes leagues. And for me, that dip is something I am buying right now ahead of this season. Heck, if there's one handcuff in San Francisco that I'm even thinking about entertaining, it is Jordan Mason because I think somehow, some way, he is going to be that number 2 running back because Jeffrey Wilson, I can't trust him being on the field. Trey Sermon is what he is. Jordan Mason, he may be the dart throw that I'm willing to take here, but Elijah Mitchell is the play here, especially at the back end of the 6th round. Now, Major, we're hitting round 7. We're hitting rounds 8, 9, and 10. Who is that running back that you want?
Rhamondre Stevenson! Yeah, baby! I should tell you guys to cover your ears. But hey, we all have our guys. You know, Tera guy is pretty much everybody on Green Bay. You have Matt. His guy is Mooney. And what's the kid from New England? He has.
You better put some respect on Brandon Cook's name right now.
Yeah, and he's now a Brandon Cook truther. So I give you those guys. But none compares to my guy, Rhamondre Stevenson. Last year, I took so much guilt, so many crazy looks from my co-host here, Tera, so much back talk from Matt. And all of a sudden, what happens? This guy looks like he's going to be RB1 in New England right now. And they have a quarterback who cannot even spell throw the ball. Like, they don't even have receivers who can catch the ball. So they're
okay. Now you're going too
Matt's
far.
Gonna step in. He's gonna fight.
Now you're disrespecting not only McCorkle Jones, but now you're taking a shot at the truth himself, Jacoby Myers, the catalyst on this Patriots offense.
Don't make me fall asleep with those names. You just McCorkle. Anyone named McCorkle, get him out of here. But hey, so back to my guy Rhamondre. Like, he is slimmed down. He's still at 230. That guy is a bowling ball. He is elusive. He can catch the ball. They've been talking about him coming in on 3rd downs. So he is going to be a 3-down back. If Dameon Harris gets hurt or anything happens to him, Rhamondre is going to be a top 15 running back. My words. I mean, I've said everything I had to say throughout the last couple of years here. So I don't have anything else to say about Rhamondre. But I just want to do Rhamondre Stevenson.
Well, before I turn the mic over to Tera here, I just want to say McCorkle Jones.
Don't disrespect. Do not disrespect my squad. You know what I mean?
All right, Tera, who do you got for that running back in rounds 7 through 10?
Before I talk on this guy, I just gotta point out, like, Major, just because you talk about a guy every single year and then he finally hits one year doesn't make you right in the previous years.
Yes, it does.
Right. No, it doesn't.
That's how you play fantasy football. You draft someone early and then you keep him and he becomes good. I see it early.
Becomes good. Was not.
He was good last year.
He was not what you wanted him to be last year.
Major, can you hang on? Can you tell me, did Rhamondre Stevenson make the Pro Bowl last year?
Who cares about awards when you are a warrior?
I know. I'm just asking this question. Just answer it, yes or no.
No, because of other reasons.
Okay, no more. Did McCorkle Jones make the Pro Bowl last year?
I don't even know who that is.
That's the Mac Daddy himself, the man who busted out the giddy during the Pro Bowl. That's Mac Jones. Pro Bowler Mac Jones to you.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe because people got hurt, but yeah, again, Tera, just talk about your guy because you guys I can't believe you guys are still trying to hate. I think you guys just hated me because it's me. If Tera would have said it, it would have been, if Tera would have said, Rhamondre, it would have been all good. But because it's me, you guys want to hate. And I'm always right. So figure it out.
You get to being right eventually. I'm right on the year every year. That's the difference right there. So I support your Rhamondre Stevenson take this year because it's right this year, not last year. It's right this year. So yeah, I like Rhamondre Stevenson. I like the guy that Matt is going to talk about, and because you guys jumped into the show sheet earlier than me, as always, because I'm like the last person to everything in the world.
It's professionalism.
Yeah, it is. I lack professionalism.
That's what the show's all about, is professionalism.
You are the early birds.
Whole thing, but yeah.
You are the early birds and you got the worms. You got the good worms. I got the bad worms. No, I'm just kidding. Tony Pollard is still a good worm. He's just not as good of the worm as these other two guys. But I'll talk about Tony Pollard because I think he's someone who's very interesting in these rounds because there is downside with him. The downside is that Zeke is a hoss. Okay. Like if your best ability is your availability, Zeke has some of the best ability in the whole league to be very available. Old age or not, I trust Zeke to stay in the lineup probably more than a lot of running backs in the NFL right now. Whether or not he will be highly productive on that's another question. Other downside, Jerry Jones loves himself some Zeke very much. So, this argument here is not a knock on Zeke as the RB1 here. It's more about Tony Pollard's value in these rounds because of the upside that he has, being able to step in with the lack of other skilled players in Dallas, because unfortunately, we're looking at an offense that is going to, outside of the running backs, going to be mainly utilizing CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz. And beyond that, they're going to have some people step up. And Dallas has told us that Tony Pollard hopefully is finally going to get some increased looks and utilization on the field. And I think this is finally the time that it's actually going to happen, because he's not going to be stepping into capacity of taking over for Zeke. Zeke's still going to be there. He's going to be stepping in as a dynamic skill player who is going to help out with the receiving losses that Dallas has suffered. So it makes a lot of sense that Pollard is going to be getting a lot more snap counts, a lot more opportunities, a lot of upside in PPR. And I think Dallas is going to try and lean on him. And so when you look at this guy and the value that he could have on a weekly basis as a flex option, and then the upside that I talk about that we want to have when these guys can be league potential winning running back should their RB1 go down, because we know that they can produce in that role. Tony Pollard is a guy who is of good value in this position, especially if you're someone who's looking to go either hero RB or zero RB. He's someone that you can rely on to be productive this year in fantasy football.
Well, the one thing you mentioned, Ezekiel ability is your best ability kind of thing there. And it's true. We talked about Joe Mixon and Jonathan Taylor being two of the running backs who put up 1,000 yards and 10 rushing touchdowns last season. Elliott was the other one. So Elliott's going to be right around that RB12, maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower. I mean, he's always around that tier 1 type running back stat. I mean, when I say tier 1, I mean top 12. So with Pollard, you actually have a running back who's probably going to see a lot of action out of the slot. And I think that's where he's going to have a little bit more standalone value than say some of these other running backs that we're looking to pair with our lead backs around the league. So we've already mentioned 8 running backs here.
Real quick, Matt, real quick. What's the split on that? Is it going to be 50-50 for Pollard and Zeke? What's the
I think when we look at touches coming out of the backfield, I think it's going to be closer to 70-30 for Elliott when it comes to touches out of the backfield. But I really think Pollard has a chance to catch 50-plus balls in that receiving game out of that slot, especially with all these other receivers either coming back from an injury or those vacated targets that have left in Amari Cooper and Cedric Wilson. Now, we've already mentioned 8 running backs that we're looking at through the first 10 rounds of the draft. I'm going to make it the 9th running back who's going to outscore Cam Akers this season. And I'm going to go with maybe the most polarizing running back that we have currently on the menu here. And that is Houston Texan. And hey, Tara, we love ourselves some Texans there, whether it's Nico Collins, Davis Mills, Brandon Cooks, Brandon Jordan. The Texans, they are cooking something down there, which is good because I've
been on the Texans before both of you guys. Time out. I've been on the Texans before both of you guys.
But you got to hit it at the right time.
Guys, go with the show. Go.
Yeah, I remember in 1983 that Major actually predicted that the Rams were going to win the Super Bowl. He was wrong for 40 years, but hey, he nailed it last year. Now, back to Dameon Pierce. He is currently got that ADP of the 99th overall player selected. Round 7 through 10, you're looking at players 73 to 120. He's not going to be 99 much longer. In fact, I've actually seen him go off in the second round in some home league drafts. I mean, home leagues, that's a different bird altogether when it comes down to it. But Pierce was second in this year's draft class in runs that led to first downs or touchdowns. And he did that 37% of the time in which he touched the ball at Florida. By the way, Florida had no idea how to use it. They didn't even know how to use anyone on that team. Let's be honest. Now, Pierce also forced a missed tackle every 2.5 carries. He was 12th in yards after contact, 11th in runs over 15 yards. And here's the kicker, was 3rd in routes run in comparison to the other running backs in this 2022 class. All this translated, we should have seen this coming. If you didn't see it coming, you had your blinders on, because this all meant that Pierce was going to be a very talented back here in the National Football League. August 25th, the last preseason game, the preseason finale for the Texans. Pierce, 6 carries, 37 yards, and a touchdown. That's 6.2 yards per carry against the 49ers defense. Yeah, it wasn't their A team, but it's still something. Pierce has shown decisiveness and has been quick to the press, the line of scrimmage, and he's mixing in some great short lateral quickness, Major. And that's the first thing that I see in there. He's pressing that line of scrimmage, and he's making those quick decisions. If you're doing that, you're going to be able to hit the hole. And it doesn't matter if your offensive line struggles. If you have, what was that old Gil Sayers saying? All I need is 18 inches of daylight, right? That's all you need as a back. And he's finding it right now, and that is where his value is going to be. Right now, rounds 7 through 10, if you're getting him in there, congratulations. But by the end of this recording, you're going to need to grab him probably in the 5th round if you want him, because that's kind of where I see him going here if you're waiting any longer to make your draft selections here for your leagues. Now, let's talk about deep sleepers. Let's dive deep. Major, we're going to start with you. We're going to the West Coast here again. Who is that deep sleeper that you were targeting?
I'm going to try this. Isaiah Spiller. It's not the same ring, but I'm going to keep doing it because I'm early on this where you guys keep saying. I'm a dynasty guy. Like all this redraft and all that other crap you guys play. I am a dynasty guy through and through. All my leagues are dynasty except for Scott Fishbowl. But I like running backs, and I like to get them early. And earlier in this show, there was a lot of lies and slander about what's going on with the Chargers and their offense. I go to one of we all love this website, ourlads.com. They do a very good job of getting the people rosters right away and give you accurate information, right? I'm looking here, and it says Isaiah Spiller is slotted in at that number 2 slot. Earlier in the thing, Matt says Joshua Kelly and round. Come on, guys. Let's get serious with this stuff. If you guys not taking this stuff serious, and I'm going to start telling people about you guys. I don't know the punishment, but yeah. But Spiller, last year in college, it was him and Breece Hall all year. Those two were the guys. Until Breece Hall did not, Isaiah Spiller did not participate in all the fun stuff that us analysts like to see. So what happens? They ding him. They make him look bad. I think the Chargers was so happy when he fell to them. I think he can be the thunder to the lightning of Ekeler. And again, I'm not a big Ekeler fan. Never really been. I don't like his running style. He runs way too hard. He has no wiggle. He has no left, no right. He gets the ball. He runs straight into like 300-pound people. You're going to get hurt. So, or you're going to get nicked up. And all you need is a little sliver of an opportunity for Isaiah to come through, and he's going to show you that he's an all-around back. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. He has size. He has speed. He has agility. To me, he's going to be one of these running backs that come out of nowhere. Maybe it might not be this year, like Tera says, I'm early, but next year and moving forward, he's going to be you guys are going to grab it. If you're in dynasty leagues, grab him now so you don't have to wait until Tera tells you 2 years from now that this guy is the guy.
Well, I just want to say, you know what? Much respect to our lads there at Chargers.com, the team website. You guys are idiots, according to Major, because you've got Isaiah Spiller as your 4th running back. I mean, what kind of disrespect is a team putting on their own players here, coming out with their own depth charts? What a sham. Tera, who's your sleeper?
My sleeper. And you know what? To defend Major a little bit.
Oh no, I don't even want it because you're going to say something crazy.
I am not. I'm being kind here. I do focus a lot on redraft because I'm good at it. But maybe we'll make a little. I gotta brag on me because you're gonna try and bring me down. No, I'm just kidding. But maybe we do need to make a little delineation here about, the dynasty investments of guys that Major's talking about who will be good like 2-3 years from now, which is, which we need to talk about and make sure we understand that those are not guys that are going to be actual like usable assets like right now. So yeah, maybe we make that delineation a little bit between the
get to the nice part. Get to the nice part. You're going to say, let's go there first.
Shoot, you're right. I should have done that. Anyway, let me jump into my guy, my late round guy. It's Kenneth Gainwell. When we talk about the Eagles here, I'm a big Jalen Hurts guy. I do believe that the big Jalen Hurts guy. I'm a girl. Anyway, but I believe that the Eagles are going to be investing heavily into the pass because they recognize that they have to pass the ball more in order to win in the actual playoffs. They can run the ball during the regular season, but if they cannot pass the ball, they're not going to be able to compete with anybody in the playoffs that are chucking the ball down the field. So they are going to do that, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be pivoting away from the run. They are not going to be doing that because they have one of the most prolific run games in the league. In 2020, they had literally the best run game. They had over 2,700 yards, 25 touchdowns. They were fantastic. So don't count this run game out. Yes, they are a committee, but the good news is that allows us to make these deep investments into guys that are going to be productive in the committee, and that is Kenneth Gainwell this year. Everything, and I was actually on him from a dynasty perspective last year. So anyways, but all the news coming out of Kenneth Gainwell is very positive, and he's going to be making a big impact this year. And while I do expect Miles Sanders to be the lead back, I'm not, disputing that. The Eagles are going to be providing Gainwell with enough work to, have a potential weekly role within this offense. And don't look at this exclusively as Gainwell as the pass catching back. He is very dynamic. We saw that in college. He's a pure athlete who is fantastic at catching the ball. But Gainwell actually had 5 touchdowns on the ground last year, which is kind of crazy considering that Miles Sanders had 0. So take that for what it's worth. They want to utilize him multiple ways on the field. So Kenneth Gainwell, very well-rounded, and I think he is poised for a potential breakout in 2022.
I was actually debated between the two of Isaiah Spiller and Gainwell when we were doing this show sheet. So that's a good pick there.
I want to point out a couple things. Back in rounds 4 through 6, you had every opportunity to choose Cam Akers. I'm just going to throw that out there. You could have easily chosen him as a guy you were drafting between rounds 4 through 6. Earlier. Yeah, it seems like a cop-out to me. And the other cop-out here is, it seems like, well, I'm a dynasty guy. That always seems like a cop-out to me. Well, I thought we were talking dynasty. We're talking about must-draft
dynasty Vipers. What the hell is going on, guys? What the hell is going on right now?
You've got yourself like a 10-year window to prove that you're right. I mean, that doesn't.
I was right about
your bets a little bit.
Rhamondre was last year and this year. That's 2 years. I was right from the beginning.
Rhamondre wasn't a thing last year. It was maybe a flex
reps away from the starting running back as a rookie. You guys are crazy.
Who had the most ridiculous amount of rushing touchdowns on the ground in Dameon Harris. So did he take?
Did he take? For nerds. Actually, I'm about to make a shirt. Anybody? I'm about to make a website.
I want that shirt.
Nerd. Yeah.
Isn't fantasy football basically stats everywhere?
Yeah.
Isn't that what it is?
Who plays fantasy football are nerds.
No, we do the stats, Matt, and then Major is the eye test guy.
Yes.
Well, you better get those eyes checked. I'll put it that way. Now, for me, that running back, we talk about rookies. We talk about rookies here, and one of those rookies who's going to be great for Dynasty down the road, so I'm going to hedge my bet right now, but I also think he's going to have standalone value here in 2022, is Rachaad White. He's currently 128 on the ADP right now. White, he basically made Gio Bernard expendable. Now, with Brady in for the last preseason contest, it was Fournette that took every snap, including those passing downs. But White has shown that throughout the preseason, he has posted a 46% avoided tackle rate. That's pretty good if you're keeping track at home. White will also have a role in this offense, much like another White, James White, had in New England. So be expecting Tom Brady to utilize Rachaad White in the passing game because White is the best pass game running back the Bucs have ever had, and I'm putting that out there right now. Okay, maybe worked out, but we're not going to go there.
Don't do that.
Rachaad, I mean, I could get Major all excited here right now.
Don't do
Rachaad
that.
White, he is a difference maker in this passing game. You want to talk about pairing running backs? If something were to happen to Uncle Lenny, White is going to go and Wally Pip him because there's no way Fournette's going to get this job back once Rachaad White gets in there. So for me, Rachaad White is that guy, and we know historically speaking, Leonard Fournette, he has missed time. So there is a very strong possibility, and the law of averages states that Leonard Fournette could miss some time here in 2022, which means that door is going to open wide open for Rachaad White and this Buccaneers offense.
Rachaad White is pretty much Ronald Jones 2.0. Like, let's keep it a buck here, guys.
He's literally the
super
complete opposite.
running style. Oh my god!
Super
God, you
We're
guys.
talking about fantasy. We're talking about catching passes. Ronald Jones couldn't even catch a cold. In fact, he can't even catch on with this Chiefs roster right now. He is going to see his ass get cut tomorrow. It's going to happen. So don't tell me that they're the same player, because they are absolutely the polar opposite of one another. And White is exactly what this Buccaneers team needs. That's why Gio Bernard has been kind of displaced. That's why we're not even talking about Keyshawn Vaughn anymore. Who exactly?
All right,
That all being
wrap the
said.
show up. You already did your whole
Don't get me
diatribe
going
about
on
him.
another. I'll bring Warwick Dunn into this. Tara, go.
Don't ever do that.
Just, little self-promotion plug relevant to the show right now. I actually did a video earlier today. I wouldn't shake your head, Major. I did a video on how Cam Akers is the guy that I will have 0 shares of this season. And I'll post it on Twitter for everyone to see. I did it before I knew about
Tera
Major's fantastic argument.
I love Tera to death. Tera's the homie, but do not watch that video. Watch every other video twice. Let's get 0 views of that video, okay, guys? If you're a fan of Vipercast and Way Too Major, you have to listen, because she doesn't know what she's talking about. Matt doesn't know what he's talking about. If I was on this show, it would be like people just saying wild stuff.
I will retweet to no end if anyone takes that video and puts Major's face over mine and pretends that that's him talking about me.
Give him the William Dafoe on Julia Roberts' Pretty Lady take, which, by the way, is like the creepiest video I have seen out there in the Twitterverse.
Yeah,
but,
you
I
can't
think we might have something
video.
here.
You can't unsee that video.
That all being said, what we have here is one of the more underrated shows in the entire fantasy football world right now. We want to thank you for tuning in. Catch us on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, all that good stuff. And if you want to be smart like Tara and I and Major, I'll give you a little bit of love there too, Major. You're thrown into this. Head to fantasypoints.com. Get that subscription today. They got all kinds of plans out there for you. If you're really smart or frugal like I am, you'll get 10% off by using promo code 22Vipers10. With that said, for Major, for Tara, I'm Matt Dolly, and this has been another edition of the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast, and we will see you all next week. Take care.